Hello, everyone. We got another story here. This one sounds interesting, so I'm going to give it a go. It says here, a mom canceled her son's birthday after he made a sexist comment, but Reddit wants her to reconsider. Hmm. I mean, as a parent, your job is to teach your kids. You don't just go straight to the punishment part because then they learn nothing, except that you have little control over your emotions. All right. Parenting teens is tough, and it can be difficult to determine the appropriate response. Well, you didn't even take the time to try. So, when your child does or say something upsetting, even the most patient, well mannered parents make rash decisions sometimes. True, but that's not a justification for when it does happen. Take it from this mom who turned to Reddit for some unbiased insight after she canceled her son's birthday over a sexist remark he made in passing. Am I the asshole user at Lupin Tossaway? Huh. Provided this context. She had planned a 3-day weekend at a ski resort for her 16-year-old son in honor of his 17th birthday. A bunch of his friends were tagging along too. They started talking about all sorts of things, though. Okay. She recalled, and eventually the topic of my son's sexuality came up. Okay. Her son is bisexual. Oh, like, who the hell is talking? Uh, okay, these are quotes. Okay. Uh, her son is bisexual and currently dating another boy. Those facts aren't issues for her, and they shouldn't be for any parent. Bisexuality is totally valid, and teens should be able to explore their sexuality freely. Not really. Not really. Sex is a certain thing that has uh, consequences that requires a certain level of maturity in order to be able to engage in that in a safe manner. So it's usually reserved for adults, but we know that teens engaging it, and we don't punish them for that, but we teach them to be safe when they do it. So it's not something that you should ignore. All right. By saying it's totally valid, and you certainly shouldn't encourage it in any sort of way. Uh, Second, uh, bisexuality is an issue because it's something that would affect your kid's life, just like money would affect your kid's life. They would have to get a job and certain things like that, or having some sort of disorder or something like that would affect their life. So bisexuality is definitely an issue. It's something that you should address with your kid and have a conversation with them about it, and make them aware of the consequences that it will have in their life, so that they're prepared for it when they become an adult and they can make appropriate decisions and react to it emotionally in a prepared sort of way when they encounter that later in life, because you're a parent, you're not a babysitter. You have to like actually engage in parenting. You don't just stand by and let shit happen. So this is terrible advice. Rather, the problem was a throwaway comment. Okay, Lupin toss away, overheard when her son was talking to his friends. Okay, they're asking him when he realized he was bisexual. When did he come out? When did he first date a guy? And what were the differences between guys and girls, etc.? She explained. Eventually, they asked him what's his preference. He says, naturally, I don't have a preference. I'm attracted to guys and girls the same way. But after dating girls and guys, I can say women aren't worth the trouble. That's just that's just a fact. If you're attracted to both of them the exact same way, obviously the worst ones to engage with would be the women, because it's just difficult. you have to do pretty much everything, and the reward is to do more for her. You see, unless you're like more attracted to the women than you are the men, it doesn't make sense to choose the women because it's just difficult. And there's a perfectly good reason for why it's difficult. As a straight man, I know it's difficult. And if I was attracted to both men and women, I wouldn't choose to engage with women. Same way, but I'm not attracted to men. So I would, even though it's difficult, I would still engage with women. Uh, the reason that it's difficult is because it's supposed to be, because the whole dating and the attraction thing is about procreation, and so it's supposed to be difficult because for women, it's there's a bigger consequence on them when they choose a mate, and if something were to happen, there's a bigger consequence on them. So in order for them to filter out bad choices, they kind of have to make things difficult, you know? So it makes sense. The only reason it no longer makes sense is because most of the needs that women have when it comes to mating and dating are pretty much taken care of in a modern society. So now they just pretty much choose a mate based on feelings rather than need. And it becomes a situation where their need just becomes danger and excitement. So they just choose wrong dudes all the time. So it just becomes an opposite sort of reaction thing. But that's completely separate from what's going on here. But I agree with him. They're just not worth the trouble. The reward is exactly the same, but the process that you have to go through is way more difficult. With a girl, he has to ask her on a date. He has to pay for the date. He has to be the most interesting one. He has to carry the conversation. He has to do pretty much everything except for move her body in response to things. But with a guy, all he had to do is just ask the dude out and freaking go on a date or whatever, just engage in whatever. So it's so much easier, and they have a lot more in common, and conversations go smoother. And both people are trying equally. So it makes sense why he would do that. So that's not really a sexist thing. That's just based on his observation, because he said he's attracted to both the same. He's tried both, and he's found women aren't worth the trouble. It's not him being sexist. So it shouldn't be a problem here. But let's see how it turns out. His answer caught her attention, so she asked him to explain further, but based on her recollection of the event, it seems like she barely gave her son a chance. I told him, if women aren't worth the trouble, then neither am I. So I wouldn't be doing anything for his birthday. He just stared at me, so I said, that's what happens when you're a sexist jerk in front of his friends. Whoa. She took that way too personally. First of all, you're not dating your son because you reacted like a jealous girlfriend. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. You should be the adult in this situation, and you reacted like a child in front of children. That was all weird. And he wasn't being sexist. He was not. In any way, shape, or form being sexist. And not against women in general, just the girls that he was dating. Like, what the what is something's wrong with people, man. Of course, Lupin's Tossaway's son was upset about his birthday celebration being canceled, especially like in the middle of the fucking thing where he got all his friends there and stuff. What is wrong with you? Celebration being canceled as punishment, and embarrassed about it happening in front of his friends, obviously. Now he's got to explain to his friends that his mom is not normally an insane bitch. And she's a terrible example for women in that circumstance. She should be a positive example in his. If she believes he's sexist, she should be a positive example of women in his life. But she just did the exact opposite. What? He hasn't spoken to me, the mom wrote, and members of our family are saying I shouldn't have said that, and I shouldn't have canceled his birthday party. Yeah, yeah, you have issues. Redditors in the comments were quick to remind Lupin's tossaway that teenagers often make flippant comments, especially among their peers. No, it's just that teenagers aren't practiced in diplomacy, so they are even children in general. They're pretty much blunt and they just kind of state facts. And a lot of people don't like uncomfortable truths, especially like yourself in this article. Uh, and the truth is, what he said, they're not worth the trouble because there's nothing that he gains from that interaction that he couldn't gain much easier from dealing with the opposite with the same gender. So he is correct. It's not, you know, in his specific circumstance, he's correct. It's not sexist. And it's not a flippant comment. It was just answering the question in a direct sort of way. He didn't think he was being offensive, especially among their peers. Was his remarks problematic? No, it wasn't. Sure, but what? No, untrue. By canceling her son's birthday party over one comment was probably overkill, and doing so in the presence of his friends was very harsh. YTA, one user wrote, he's 16. Kids say dumb things. It wasn't dumb. It wasn't dumb. If you try to gaslight him and tell him what he's saying is wrong and problematic and dumb and sexist and all of that stuff, and from his observation of life is just a correct and rational response, it just fucks with his head for no reason. Why would you do that to someone? Especially a 16-year-old is trying to form his mentality in his life and trying to deal with situation. Like, why would you fuck up his mind in that way? That has to be abuse. To tell someone something that they know to be correct is wrong is fucked up. Explain it in a different way. Explain it in a way where you could say that it's not kind to say it that way because some people can take it wrong. That would be more accurate. But saying that his comments are dumb or problematic, that is just not true. In fact, a direct but private conversation about why his logic was rooted in sexism. The fuck does that mean? How is it rooted in sexism? How is it rooted in sexism? Men and women are different. Especially as someone, especially you talking to someone that's attracted to both, he can observe the differences because he's engaging in with both. So it's not sexist, it's just an observation. It is not a prejudice. It's a reality at that point. Likely would have been more productive than such a severe punishment. It's hard enough to be a queer teenager without feeling like you can't speak openly in front of your parents. All this is nonsense and unnecessary. It's absolutely overly harsh for a flippant comment made as a joke. It wasn't made as a joke. Another commenter opined, I say this as a staunch feminist, bisexual woman in a relationship with other women. Sure, have a convo with the kid and make sure he's not falling into misogynistic patterns. Something's wrong with people nowadays, man. Like just insanity. But canceling a birthday party over this is absolute overkill and will only make him not trust or want to be around mom. True, that last part is true. If you think he's being a sexist jerk, address how that can be and explore it. Exactly. Much better. And especially don't assume that you're correct on the issue, because then you would be dismissive of his counter argument, and then you wouldn't be listening to him, and then you'd both just end up in another argument. See? Seek to understand and try to counter, but also listen. That would be the better way to approach it, especially as an adult. You should know this. You should be the one to know this and be able to bring it to your child. Someone else advised, you're his mom, and you're the one that's supposed to guide him. Exactly. All right. So I think that's the end of it. Well, that was quite crazy. Terrible parenting uh, by that woman. But it's funny because ironically, she would be the reason for this sort of misogyny that she imagines that her son possessed. Such is life.